Well, the general election is coming out, folks. November 5th is barreling at us like a freight train, and there is a lot on the line. If you are pro-gun, if you're pro-Second Amendment, you're going to want to watch this video. I'm Chris Dorr. I'm the director for Pennsylvania Firearms Association, and in this video, I'm going to talk about your House District 72, right there in parts of Cambria County, places like Johnstown, Summerhill, Ebensburg. This is one of the most important races in the entire state because whoever wins this race, that party is likely going to control the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. The incumbent Democrat, Frank Burns, is widely known to be a pro-gun Democrat, but challenging him is Amy Bradley, the Republican. And there is something about Frank Burns that I want you all to know before you go cast your votes, and that's the purpose of this video. So with that, I'm going to jump into it right away. I'll ask you guys to direct your attention over there to the whiteboard, and I'm just going to go right into it and compare these people. What you're seeing here on this whiteboard is kind of like the world of political reality at the Capitol in Harrisburg when it comes to the gun issue. We're not talking about all these other things right now, only talking about gun bills. So in the last couple of years, several bills have come before the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, and Frank Burns has had an opportunity to vote on those. So I'm going to go through those, and I'm going to compare that to what Amy Bradley wants to do if you guys go ahead and choose her as the Republican instead of a Democrat. So red flag gun confiscation was one of the biggest bills that came before the Pennsylvania House of Representatives this year. Okay, we're talking about this one right there. Red flag gun confiscation, it's total gun control. And what it does is it's the destruction of due process for gun owners because it allows anyone to petition a judge to have your gun rights taken away from you without you ever being charged, tried, or convicted of a crime. It's absolutely terrible gun control, and it came up for a vote. Frank Burns voted the right way on that. He voted against red flag gun confiscation. We asked Amy Bradley how she would vote on that, and she says, absolutely, I'll vote against that as well. So right there, you have kind of an equalization on that issue. You get the same results with either candidate. Universal gun registration. This is another gun control bill. Universal gun registration, the bill that they've voted on in the Pennsylvania House, it outlawed the private sale of firearms and gave the state the ability to track, trace, and register gun owners like we're some kind of sex offenders. We believe Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, people like Beto O'Rourke, when they say stuff like, hell yes, we're going to take away your guns someday, or hell yes, we're going to pass an AR-15 ban. The way they do that is by passing a universal gun registration bill so that they know who owns what guns. Terrible gun control. It came to the floor of the Pennsylvania House for a vote, and Frank Burns voted against it. Very good stuff. Now, stick with me here. I want you to go all the way to the end of this video because there's a very important twist in this story that I want you guys to see. Amy Bradley, we asked her, what would you do in that situation? She said, I'm going to vote no on universal gun registration. So again, we have an equalization of vote here. Republican versus Democrat. They're both on the same side on this issue. Let's switch over to constitutional carry. Okay, so this is a pro-gun bill. I'm going to underline it in green. A constitutional carry simply gets government out of the rights regulation business. 29 states already have this. Simply says that you can carry a firearm for self-defense without begging government permission. Gun owners are statistically, demographically, very law-abiding. States that pass this have no problem with gun owners. Frank Burns, he voted for it. We asked Amy Bradley, would you vote for it? She said, absolutely. Went on record in favor of it. Same with preemption reform. This bill is... we have a problem here in Pennsylvania where big cities like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, their city councils, their mayors, they like to pass gun control ordinances that are in violation of state law. They're not allowed to do that. We have a preemption statute in Pennsylvania that says that local municipalities, cities, townships, all these different things, they're not allowed to pass gun control. They have to be within the confines of state law. That bill was on the floor. I think it was 2021, late 2021 or early 2022. Frank Burns voted for it. Okay, so he voted the right way. We asked Amy Burns how she would vote on that. She said, I'm going to vote for that thing as well. So again, we've got mirroring votes on both sides, Democrat and Republican. Now we're going to get into something a little bit more detailed. And this is where it really starts to matter. In this election cycle, we issued a candidate survey to both Amy Bradley and Frank Burns in this race because we want to know, is there a difference here? Is one of you two candidates different from the other in how you would vote? And Amy Bradley answered her survey 100% pro-gun, okay? So we're going to give her an AQ rating because that's as high as you can get without actually having voted in office before. She scored 100% on her survey and filled out every single question properly. We asked Frank Burns the exact same set of questions. We sent him the whole thing, said, hey, we want you to go on record. We know what you did in the past. We need to know what you're going to do in this upcoming General Assembly. Will you fill this out? The answer we got was a great big fat no. He's not going to go on record. And it confused us for a minute because we're like, wait a minute, what is going on here? He's already cast the votes, the majority of which are the questions of which are asked in this candidate questionnaire. Why won't he fill out our survey? And here is the answer, folks. I think it was the last question on our candidate survey asked them if they will only cast their votes for a pro-gun Speaker of the House. Okay? We asked Frank Burns that question. He said, absolutely not. Folks, of course, on the other side, and we already said this, but I'll just say it again. Amy Bradley said, of course, I'm not going to cast my vote for a pro-gun control Speaker of the House. And folks, this is the biggest difference between these two candidates, and I need to expound on this for just a minute. This is the nuts and bolts of the differentiation between Frank Burns. Frank Burns voted for Joanna McClinton for Speaker of the House. Joanna McClinton is one of the most, if not the most, anti-gun legislators that has ever crawled through the halls of the Capitol in Harrisburg in modern history. Okay? So this is the dirty details. So, but here's the bigger point. Because Frank Burns won't promise to withhold his vote from an anti-gun speaker like Joanna McClinton, Joanna McClinton is the very speaker who put this bill, red flags, and this bill. Ooh, that's bad. Here, let me erase that. Okay. She put both of these bills on the floor of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. So literally, Frank Burns' vote for Speaker of the House was the most important gun vote of his entire legislative career. And when he voted to put Joanna McClinton in the speaker's chair, he literally was voting to put red flag gun confiscation and universal gun registration on the floor. And he knew it beforehand. He knew it beforehand because as a state representative and as a candidate for Speaker of the House, she was all over the media saying she was going to put gun control on the floor of the House if she got elected. This is a damned lie for Frank Burns to try to sit there and tell you that he is pro-gun when his vote, remember, the Democrats have a 1-seat majority. It was Frank Burns' vote for Joanna McClinton as the Democrat Speaker of the House that put the biggest gun control bills in Pennsylvania history on the floor of the Pennsylvania House. This is the big difference between Amy Bradley on one side and Frank Burns on the other. Now, I don't care what other quote unquote gun rights organizations like GOA or NRA, I don't care what they rate Frank Burns as. I don't care what the endorsements are. The most important gun vote of the entire General Assembly for a guy like Frank Burns, this guy right here is his vote for Speaker of the House. If he would vote pro-gun on his speaker vote, this stuff, red flags, that one there, and universal gun registration, it never would have come to the floor. He is the person who enabled that gun control to get on the house of the floor of the House. And no other organization is going to talk about this to you. Why? because they crave adoration from the political class more than anything else. More than anything else. Frank Burns has a good voting record on individual policy items, but he's allowed to do that. He's given permission to vote this way by the Speaker of the House because it's his vote that gave her the Speaker's gavel. And folks, nobody else is going to tell you about this truth. So you know what? Frank Burns, because of that, because of his votes, because of his vote here for Speaker of the House, because that is the most important vote, he gets an F rating because he's responsible for all of this other gun control getting to the floor of the House for a vote in the first place. So folks, I want you guys to keep this in mind. I want you to keep this in mind. Number one, if you see Amy Bradley out there on the campaign trail, this lady right here, thank her for filling out her survey 100% right here. Thank her for that. A lot of, well, as you can see right here, some legislators don't want to go on record on all of these things. Amy Bradley did. If you see her, thank her for answering all these questions here, right? And acing her candidate survey. She went on record. It's kind of like signing the dotted line for a mortgage. Once you sign it, you have to do it. And that's why Frank Burns over here on the other side did not fill out his candidate survey. He didn't want to go on record on this one right here. This is the most important issue that he was going to face. And he didn't want the voters of House District 72 right there in Cambria County. He did not want them to know the dirty truth about what he had done. It's a dang shame. It's a dang shame for somebody like Frank Burns to just sell out his vote so cheaply. We like the way he used to vote, but the one vote, the one time when gun owners needed Frank Burns the most, he stabbed them in the back. And that is something we refuse to turn a blind eye to. So folks, if you see Amy Bradley on the campaign trail, thank her for her 100% pro-gun candidate questionnaire, for promising to be a fighter, even when it comes to the leadership votes, because so much is at stake in those leadership votes. If you see Frank Burns on the campaign trail, tell him to apologize for voting for Joanna McClinton for Speaker of the House. I knew it. He knew it. The entire General Assembly knew it. His whole caucus knew it. All the Republicans were trying to convince him not to do it, but he did it. He did it. And because of that vote, because of Frank Burns, red flag gun confiscation and universal gun registration passed out of the House of Representatives. It's because of him. It's because of Frank Burns. Now, thankfully, we stopped that bill in the Senate, but Senate Democrats were then able to say, well, it already passed the House of Representatives, and they put immense amounts of pressure on Senate Republicans, and we had to do a lot of work to stop those bills from passing. And those votes that Frank Burns empowered to happen because of his vote for Joanna McClinton, those votes are being used against conservative Republicans in swing districts all across the state of Pennsylvania right now. So if you see Frank Burns out there on the campaign trail, tell him to apologize and tell him to publicly go on record and say if he wins, he will never vote for Joanna McClinton or any anti-gun Democrat for Speaker of the House ever again. Got a little upset there. And this is upsetting. This is serious stuff. There's a lot on the line right now. And when you compromise with the radical anti-gun left, they'll try to take a mile from you. And this is no time for compromising. So folks, I'm going to ask you to do a couple things. Number one, please share this video with everybody you know, your pro-gun friends and family right there in House District 72, Cambria County, Johnstown, Summerhill, places like that. Share this video with your pro-gun friends, family, loved ones, co-workers, neighbors, your church family members, people like that. They need to know the difference and how Frank Burns stab them in the back on the most important gun vote of the entire General Assembly. Let them all know. Last but not least, I'm going to ask you this. There's a lot on the line right now. So much is at stake in this election. I'm going to ask you folks, on November 5th, round up all of those pro-gun friends of yours, head down to the polls, and vote pro-gun.